Good morning. Hello, good morning everyone. It is 8 o'clock, so I would like to start straight away, because I know none of you want to spend too much time in this room. This morning we've got Gabriel Woodhouse again, who's from the Bureau of Meteorology, and she's going to give you the very latest predictions for the weather. Gabriel, good morning.
Thanks, Arthur. So, as you would expect, we've had some fairly extensive thunderstorms through New South Wales yesterday and the day before. And it appears the clicker doesn't want to work again. But what we're looking at today is that trough is still over the eastern parts of New South Wales, and we're still looking at fairly extensive thunderstorms and potential for severe thunderstorms to develop over the land. And that also means that we could see those conditions over the water. So the risk of thunderstorms has really increased for today, including from race start time, but more so along the New South Wales coast today and tomorrow. In terms of the winds, it is still a little bit difficult along the New South Wales coast today and tomorrow for what wind directions we're going to see. At this stage for the race start, we're still expecting easterly winds, but once you head out offshore, we'll start to see them turn a little bit more northeasterly and potentially be a little bit stronger than what we were forecasting the other day. By Wednesday and Thursday, we'll start to see that southwesterly flow develop as that low pressure system moves away. So for the course of the race, we're looking at strong wind warnings being quite likely, particularly through the southern parts, like south of Eden and down towards Bass Strait and Tasmania with the low pressure system today and into tomorrow. Those winds will ease, but more strong wind warnings are likely with those southwesterly winds during the second half of the week. So looking at the chart from this morning, what we can see on there is that low pressure system over the inland of New South Wales and that cold front sitting over the ranges of New South Wales at the moment. Ahead of that is where we're seeing a lot of uplift and a lot of instability and thunderstorms. So looking at the satellite image, what we can see at the moment is, this is just on an hour and a half ago, thunderstorms are already out over the Illawarra waters, as well as a few thunderstorms over the land. The cloud that we can see over Sydney at the moment, we're expecting to start to break up by about lunchtime, but then we can expect very quick development of thunderstorms through the afternoon. Sorry about that. It's always good to have an echo. Sorry. So in the charts, what we can see with that low pressure system and the trough and cold front is it's starting to move out towards the Tasman Sea, but it is quite slow moving. So it does sort of stall along the New South Wales coast tonight and into tomorrow morning, and then we start to see that low shift away later Wednesday and during Thursday. So by Thursday and Friday, we're sitting in that southwesterly flow and that ridge starting to develop in its wake. So with that, on Friday, we do look as though we'll see another cold front or trough pass Tasmania, and that's really going to reinforce those southwesterly winds and introduce that risk of strong wind warnings and potentially some local gales as well. So taking a close look at the forecast at the moment, we're expecting, like on the harbour, we're still sitting in south-southeasterly winds at this point in time, but by race start, we're expecting them to turn more easterly and maybe an hour or two after that, turn a little bit more northeasterly. But once we get out past the heads and a little bit further south, we're expecting those east-northeasterly winds to increase a little bit and potentially get up around 15 or 20 knots the further offshore you are. Inshore, we're still expecting some fairly variable winds, but throwing the risk of the thunderstorms that we've got developing through the afternoon and persisting across the waters, we're going to have very erratic winds from these storms. So yesterday we were seeing wind gusts in excess of 70, 80 kilometres an hour and potentially up to 100 kilometres an hour. So one thing to really be aware of for this afternoon and into Wednesday is that those winds are going to be quite strong. They're going to come from any direction and they're going to be with those thunderstorms. In addition, with those storms, looks as though we'll have some very heavy rainfall, so that's really going to reduce the visibility, and we'll also see the risk of hail. So yesterday we're seeing hailstones from small right up to 4 or 5 centimetres in size. So there is quite the risk of hail through the course of today, particularly with those thunderstorms. Now, as we move into Tuesday night, what we start to see is those winds are a little bit of a mess, and that's as you would expect, with that trough lingering over the water there and the thunderstorm activity. So at this stage, it's more likely that we'll have those slightly more variable winds inshore. Offshore, we could be getting up towards 20 knots, and as you head down towards Bass Strait, obviously we'll be sitting in easterlies 20 to 30 knots and some strong winds in that area. By Wednesday, we start to see that low pressure system start to move a little bit, and with that we'll see the wind starting to weaken off. So what you can see here by Wednesday morning is still showers and thunderstorms across Bass Strait and New South Wales, and potentially also the northeast of Tasmania. But the winds themselves will start to reduce a little bit in speed and tend a little bit more northeasterly the further east you are. But as you can see in that image there, we still might be seeing some east-southeasterlies towards the southern parts of Bass Strait. And as we move through Wednesday, you can see those winds do lighten off quite significantly, as you'd expect, as that low shifts away. So by Wednesday afternoon, you can see that we're starting to develop those southwesterly winds. There's a bit of uncertainty about what wind strengths we'll be seeing, but it seems as though parts of it initially at least 10 to 20 knots, and then during the evening and overnight, we'll see those southwesterly winds increase further. Along the Tasmanian coast, we will be seeing northeast to southeasterly winds, and maybe even a little sneaky southwesterly coming in towards Hobart. By Thursday morning, this is what we're seeing with that change starting to move through and seeing those southwesterly winds develop. Now, they will bend as they go around Tasmania, and in that northeast corner where we have those winds converge, that's where we're going to have a bit of a mess of those winds and potentially drop out. So that is an area to pay attention to, just to the northeast of Tasmania there, and note that we will be seeing some stronger southerly winds potentially along the northern parts of the Tasmanian coast. Everywhere else, we're looking at southwesterly winds, and for those that might still be along the New South Wales coast, those winds will be a little bit variable, but we'll start to see those southwesterlies push through the southern parts of New South Wales. Again, we're still looking at cloudy periods and showers around, particularly around Tasmania. There is still the risk of thunderstorms, but they'll be more confined towards the New South Wales coast and the northern parts of Bass Strait. So by Thursday evening, you can see that area where we've got those winds converging from the southwest and south. It becomes a little bit more extensive, and that area will shift around a little bit. It will depend on exactly what kind of wind direction we see across Tasmania and how it bends around. But often we do see that little area of convergence just to the northeast of Tasmania. Now, with this, we will be seeing the waves start to pick up as well, and obviously once we get to south of Tasman Island in particular, we'll be seeing that southwesterly swell develop through Thursday and Friday, and with that potentially seeing significant wave heights up around the 4 or 5 metre mark, and obviously those waves from the southwest. Now, for Friday and into the weekend, we start to see a more settled kind of a pattern with that southwesterly flow persisting and that ridge starting to develop to the north across Bass Strait. So with this, it's likely that we'll see strong wind warnings, particularly around Tasmania and potentially through Bass Strait. And once we get to Saturday, you can see that we really start to have that push through and potentially see those southwest winds move up towards the New South Wales coast. And by Sunday, the ridge really starts to develop and we see those winds weaken off again. And by Monday, that ridge is really in place. But what we're starting to see is another trough develop over the inland of New South Wales and more broadly across Australia, which again could lead to some stormy conditions during the first part of next week, and maybe even the risk of a low pressure system forming within that trough. So for those that might be headed back early next week, really pay attention to the forecast, because similar to what we've been seeing today, you know, when we've got a trough and we've got a lot of dynamics in place, that we can see fairly extensive thunderstorms as well as some stronger northeasterly winds develop. So looking at the Hobart forecast itself, it looks as though we'll see those maximum temperatures remain in the low 20s. Generally cloudy periods, a few sunny breaks, but a few showers around. At this stage, it's more likely that we'll see some sunnier periods on Friday, if you're able to get in on Friday. But for the most part, we're looking at those west-southwesterly winds, and they will be fairly fresh and gusty at times, trying to come into Hobart. As you know, with the current off the New South Wales coast at the moment, it is quite strong, but it is going to be weakening, particularly for the southerly flow that's closest to the land. That'll start to weaken, particularly from tomorrow. but it is quite significant at this time of the year, particularly for that current to be headed so far south. And with that, we're seeing those sea surface temperatures be quite warm for this time of the year. So particularly south of about Gabo Island and towards Tasmania, we're looking at 3 degrees above average and sitting around 17 to 20 degrees in the water. Just a little reminder about the tides. Expecting the highest of the high tides during the morning and the lowest of the low tides during the afternoon. And getting in towards Hobart and Battery Point during the overnight period, that pattern does break down a little bit, and you might not be able to distinguish that high tide and low tide during the evening. So it means that we'll only have the one high tide and the one low tide in the 24-hour period. So just to summarise, what we're looking at today is still that trough and low pressure system that's going to be slowly moving to the southeast. We're going to see some fairly variable winds along the New South Wales coast, and we have a much greater risk of seeing thunderstorms pretty much even from race start time right through Tuesday and Wednesday. And those storms, looking at erratic winds, hail, low visibility, as well as lightning. After that, once we see that low start to move away, things should start to ease a little bit, but we'll still be in a fairly fresh to strong southwesterly flow. So with that, I'm going to say good luck. I really look forward to following your path down to Hobart, and hope to see you again next year.
What a difference a day makes. Thank you so much, Gabriel. Any questions of Gabriel? I also have Lee Goddard here, who's the chairman of the race committee, if you've got any questions of him. No? Well, good luck, guys. Have a good sail down there, but be careful and sail safely. Bye.